Good morning, Jill. How are you?
Oh, good morning, Joe. I'm laughing. We've been having a wee chat before coming on, and my cheeks are already sore for laughing. So that's good. I'm good. How are you?
I'm really good, thank you. And I'm really excited to have you in my group. So, without further ado, introduce yourself, tell us who you are, what you do, and how you can help the ladies in here.
Okie dokie. Well, first, let me say to you, I am so excited to be here. Thank you for creating this. I really wish I had found a group like this when I was going through the perimenopause.
Me
So
too.
massive thanks to you. I'm Jill. Now, I am a coach. I call myself, I can't say this without laughing. I call myself the happy balance coach. But
It does
anyone
what
that
it says
knows
on the tin, doesn't it? Makes you smile and you're happy. So,
that
there we go.
sounds all lovely and zen and balanced and nice. And anybody who knows me will understand that I'm naturally about as unbalanced and unhinged as they get. But the name is there for a reason. It's because that's what my work is all about. I work on myself. I work really hard on balancing key elements or elements that I think are key, like things like exercise, rest, good nutrition, good sleep, connection, purpose. You know the score because I know you do a lot of similar work yourself. But I work really hard on trying to keep somewhat of a balance in
Yeah.
all of those areas. And I have learned over the years that that has made a massive difference to both my physical and my mental health, especially my mental health. And subsequently, it's made a massive difference to how I have approached and I've managed my own perimenopause experience. So that is what I do. I've totally changed my life, and I have set up a coaching business where I help other middle-aged women, very similar to myself, um, who are who are struggling primarily with their drinking, with their eating and their drinking habits. Maybe because of how they're feeling in the menopause, they find themselves drinking and eating more than they want to, or in ways that they're not very happy with, but they can't necessarily work out what to do about it. I help those ladies by looking at the bigger picture, by looking
Nice.
at everything other than the food and the drink. Ironically, the elements I've just spoken about.
Yeah. It's
Um,
a big circle, isn't it? They're all
yeah,
connected.
yeah, and
I'm
making a
sure,
life,
I'm
building
sure,
a life that
sorry.
makes them happy.
I'm sure lots of ladies can relate to everything you just said in there because I know myself, I've had struggles in the past with it. I don't know if you know, I'm like 12 months now without
I
drinking, which
do,
I'm
and I'm sick of
extremely
myself.
proud of. I'm 55 and I've been trying to be sober, I would say probably for 10 years,
It's
you know,
hard,
so
huh?
it is hard. It's not an easy fate. And, you know, I've cut right back and felt really good and only drank on special occasions and only had, so I've, you know, I've not been an excessive drinker for probably like the last 5 or 6 years, but still each year, every year got harder and harder with
Hmm.
brain fog.
Oh God.
And my tolerance got less and less and less. So it got to a point where, okay, I have to stop, you know,
Hmm.
and now I've done it. I wished I was stronger and had help from someone years ago to help me do it quicker. But anyway, I
Well
digress.
done, you. Well
Thank
done. I mean,
you.
I know how hard that is, and and everyone says that. Everyone, when they do change their relationship with alcohol, I've never met somebody that said, "Blimey, I wish I didn't do that."
Yeah,
Everybody says, "I wish I'd done it sooner." I don't know
yeah.
if you're like me. I knew that things weren't right, and I knew I was drinking more than I wanted to be. I now see why, but because it's so socially accepted and it's so normal, it's so difficult to do anything about it. But it's
Yes.
only when you do that the penny starts to drop as to why all we were using it, and it's often a lot deeper than just, oh, but I like a drink. Like in my case, and in a lot of the ladies I work with, it was a void filler. You know, so I was using it because I was bored, because I was a bit lonely, because I'd lost my meaning and purpose, because I didn't like the changes that was going on in my body. And a drink is the quick fix, isn't it?
You feel like you deserve a drink, don't you?
Totally.
When you've got through the
Totally.
day, you're like, oh, I really deserve a drink now. It's like you just
Plowing on. Yeah. Plowing on. My whole big thing is around listening. I know we were just speaking about listening, but listening to what's really going on, because I think we know deep inside, we know I didn't know exactly what was missing, but I knew something wasn't right. And I think when we're brave enough to take a good hard look and just listen, and I'm not meaning it, I'm not necessarily meaning it has to be something massive, but things that we're ignoring, especially as we go into menopause, or perimenopause, because everything starts to change, doesn't it? Yet us as women, we plow on thinking we've got to just carry on as we've always done and hold everything.
Get it done. Putting everyone else first before us.
And we don't listen to our own needs. We don't listen to our own needs. And then we wonder why we're feeling meh and we're feeling tired and we can't stop crying. And granted, there's all the hormonal stuff going on, but the alcohol, and not just the alcohol, I think alcohol is one piece of the puzzle that can make such a huge difference.
Yeah, massive difference. Yeah. So you've told us a little bit about your story there. Can you remember when you first started realizing, and obviously this led you into coaching with your own journey, how did you then decide to go, all right, I've got this and I can help other women? Where was the transition?
Right. So my story, there's another big part to my story that I haven't mentioned here. I didn't even know what my story was.
You don't have to. Only if
I didn't even know what my story was until, so it was just before the pandemic. But I decided to take a break from alcohol. So I sort of went about it probably the opposite way from you've done it. I decided to take a break. I did take a break for a year and a half, maybe more. I didn't drink at all. And then since then, I've gradually just been working out how I want my relationship with alcohol to be. So I'm at a point now that I obviously I drink whenever I want, but I can honestly say that 90% of the time now, I don't drink. I don't want it. I think that's what I've done, is I've just got myself into a place where I'm so much happier without it.
Yeah.
But the way it all started was in just before the pandemic. Well, probably for about 5 years before that. This sounds a bit out there, but I would wake up every single morning feeling not, I don't consider myself an alcoholic. I was just pouring myself, a couple of glasses of wine of the evening to get myself through the day, to treat myself, to make my boring evenings seem a little bit more exciting. And I would wake up every morning just filled with dread of the day ahead. I now realize I was in the thick of perimenopause. I didn't realize that at the time. I was on that coil, is it the Mirena coil? Yes. Yeah. So I didn't have periods. I didn't know where I was with all that. I'd gone to the doctors a couple of times saying, I think something's not right here. And they just said, no, you're too young. So I'm 50 now, but this was about when I was, this has been going on since I was in my early 40s.
And they're still saying that, sadly, but yeah.
They're all like, you're too young. I was like, okay. But every morning I would get up just feeling like, oh, how am I going to do this? Right? Pull yourself together, Jill. And I would walk past a picture of my dad that's on my bedroom wall. And I lost my dad maybe 5 years before that. And I swear I could hear his voice going, come on, Jilly, you're better than this. Sort this out. And this voice would keep at me. And one day I thought, right, I've got to do something about this. So I signed up for a 90-day no booze challenge. Just thinking I wanted to use that to have a teeny tiny break and change my habits. And I did the 90-day challenge. But very, very early on, it hit me that my problem wasn't the booze. My problem was insecurity. It was lack of confidence. It was, I'd lost all my meaning and I'd lost who I was. And so very quickly on, I started doing stuff about those things, and I could see the difference it was making to my life. The confidence started to come, but everything started to change. And it hit me that in my younger years, I had done something very similar with food. So when I was a young woman, I had an eating disorder that almost killed me. And it was a similar thing. I wasn't struggling with food because I necessarily wanted to be thin. I was struggling with food because it was my coping mechanism. I was using it because I didn't believe in myself. I didn't like myself. I felt a bit like a misfit. I was lonely. I got over my eating disorder, but I see in many ways that the wine had just replaced that.
Replaced it.
Yeah. So that's kind of my story. So when I went on this challenge, the guy who was running the challenge is he's actually now one of the world's leading alcohol-free coaches. He's a chap called Andy Ramage. He was one of the 2 people who started the 1 Year No Beer movement. He asked me if I wanted to work for him, helping run his self-development programs. So for a couple of years there, I trained to be a coach under him. I then got my own accreditation with the International Coaching Federation, but I worked as a coach for him in the alcohol-free space and also in the self-development space. But very early on, I realized that my thing wasn't just alcohol-free.
It wasn't straightforward.
Yeah, let's forget about the alcohol, forget about the food, and let's look at what us women really need. Let's build a life you don't need food or alcohol to escape with.
Yeah, brilliant. I love it. There's so many women in the group going to relate to that, I'm sure. So I'm really glad
thanks
for sharing that. That's like something really personal to you. And I think other ladies, when they hear our stories as coaches, and I'm a big believer in the best coaches are the ones that have gone through it themselves, because otherwise how do you understand? How can you coach someone not knowing? So I'm really grateful that you shared that with us, Jill. And
I'm really grateful to be here. And I want to say exactly, I mean, my story is messy because I'm messy. I don't claim to be perfect. I even hate the word coach sometimes because it makes I feel,
especially these days, a lot of people are throwing the word around that, everyone's coaching. So I understand what you mean though, yeah.
But what I do want to do is, I'm quite happy as you are. I'm quite happy to come out front and to share my messiness and my story. And I do so in the hope that it will help maybe others who are where I was, who are hiding in the shadows, just not really knowing what's going on, but not feeling that great about themselves and maybe eating and drinking more than they want. I just want to, my message is all about being perfectly imperfect and just, together working it out.
I love that. Perfectly imperfect. Brilliant. Well, thanks for your time today, Jill. I really appreciate it. I'm going to pop this video onto my YouTube channel, and it will go into the group in a few days. So I've got
fabulous.
Yeah, I've got a couple of ladies in front of you, so I'm trying to put in one a day, and then tag it.
Whenever. It's lovely, Jo. It's really lovely. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care. Have a good rest of the day.
You too. You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.